everyone. Welcome to the summit. My name is Alexis Moore. I am your co-host today, and thank you so much for being here with us. I am joined by Brian Tracy, and a little bit about Brian. Brian is a world-renowned best-selling author and speaker specializing in personal and professional development. His fast-moving talks and seminars on leadership, sales, personal growth, success, and business strategy are loaded with powerful, proven ideas and strategies that empower people to achieve their biggest goals. With over 40 years of experience, Brian brings immediate changes and long-term results, inspiring everyone to reach their full potential. So looking forward to chatting with you today, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. And today's theme is setting yourself up for the best year from dreams to reality. So what a topic. What a topic.
Thank you, Alexis. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I know that you wanted to share a story with us to get started today. So I'll hand it over to you and looking forward to getting to hear this.
I have lots of stories, but one that I particularly like, I was at a conference in Washington, D.C., 2,500 people, black tie, and it was a big fancy deal. And a man came out of the crowd and said, "You're Brian Tracy." And I said, "Yes." He said, "You changed my life. You made me rich." And I said, "Really?" I said, "What was it?" And he told me about the different books of mine that he had read and the different actions he had taken. And he had struggled and struggled and struggled. But then when he came across my material, it transformed his life completely. And the reason I like that story is because I've heard it perhaps 1,000 times. I get emails and letters, and people have come up to me on the street in Slovakia and say, "You're Brian Tracy. You changed my life. You made me rich." So in our time together, Alexis, I'm going to share some of the reasons why people have given me for changing their life and making them rich. And I always say to my friends, I say, I hope that when we meet, wherever it is, and you come up to me and you say the same words, that you changed my life, you made me rich. Because, you can be rich or you can be poor. And I always remember that one liner, believe me, rich is better.
Oh man. Wow, what a story. I mean, what a story. That has to be a delight to hear.
Yeah. Yes, it
So
is.
so yeah, I mean, where do you want to begin with this? People coming up to you saying you changed my life. I mean, uh, yeah, where do you want to even start with that?
Let's start with my two favorite words. One is clarity, and the other is focus. I
Hmm.
find that successful people are very clear about who they are and what they want, what their goals are, what the steps are to achieve their goals, and so on. And unsuccessful people are unclear. Successful people are committed, and unsuccessful people are kind of wishy-washy. Well, maybe I will, maybe I won't, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work, and so on. So the question is, be absolutely clear about what you want. Let me give you an example. We have now, in primarily the US, but worldwide, about 39 million millionaires. These are people who started with nothing and who are today worth more than $1 million, and some of them worth a lot more than $1 million. We read about billionaires all the time. Well, a few years ago, there weren't any.
Mm.
And now there's almost, I think it's about almost 3,000 billionaires. Elon Musk is an interesting statistic. A couple of years ago, he was worth $2.2 billion. Today, he's worth $222 billion. His net worth has gone up 100 times in the last 3 to 5 years.
Wow.
And that's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we call it a head shaver because how can that be possible? And the answer is looking for ways to help people to achieve their goals. My one of my favorite role models is Jeff Bezos, who founded Amazon and struggled with Amazon for years and years and years. Never made any money for the first 7 years, and then turned the corner and then became the richest man in the world. He's about number three now, but it's just absolutely phenomenal. How could that? How could that possibly happen? And the answer is constantly looking for ways to serve other people, constantly looking for ways to help people to improve the quality of their lives, their work, their health, and so on. And the more you focus on helping others and improving other people's lives, the more comes back to you. It's just the most wonderful thing. People are thinking, well, I want to be successful. I want to have more money. Well, good. Then get busy doing something that benefits and enriches other people and get better and better at doing it. And nothing can stop you. People aren't going to say, no, no, don't help me improve the quality of my life. If you find that human beings are motivated to do things that lead to personal improvement, is every single product purchase, every single action, every single service consumed is to somehow improve the quality of my life and my family and my business and so on. So your job is to find ways to help people improve the quality of their life and work, and then become very good at it. That's really important. And you have to be prepared to work at it for a long time. It's interesting. I told you the Jeff Bezos story, but I studied Peter Drucker some years ago. And one of the things he pointed out was that it takes about 7 years to become a success.
Mhm.
7 years. It takes 2 years to learn, and make mistakes and semi fail and so on. And most businesses, 90%, at least at the beginning, fail. But if you keep examining what you're doing and look for ways to improve it and bounce back, we say there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. So therefore, what you do is you start off, just like knocking on doors or phoning people. You start off doing the very best that you possibly can, and you learn. Now you're going to make mistake after mistake after mistake. So it's basically failure, 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 enormous success. And so you just have to get up earlier in the morning, work harder, stay later, and keep at it. So it takes 2 years to turn the corner so that you're actually earning more than it's costing you. And then you look at Jeff Bezos, one of the richest men in the world, it applies to him just like it applies to each person that's listening. Number two, it takes about 2 more years for you to pay back the money that you've borrowed, that you the whole on for the first 2 years. Then at the 4 year point, you start to take off. You start to develop systems. You start to become more confident. You do more things right than wrong. And at the 7 year point, your whole life changes. So it's 2 years, 2 years, 3 years. And that seems to be the case worldwide for everybody who succeeds. Too many people think, well, I want to do it tomorrow. I want to do it
Right.
next week, next year. No, that's just not the way it works, because you don't know enough. You have to have experience. You have to fail over and over again. So the thing that we teach, one of the things that we teach is always ask, what exactly has happened? When you have had a setback or a temporary failure, what has happened and what did we learn? What did we learn and what are we going to do differently next time? And if you look at the history of successful entrepreneurs, you'll find every one of them failed. Every one of them analyzed their failure. Every one of them detected the lesson and then applied the lesson and taught everybody in their business, everybody around them, what they've learned. So that's the key to success. The other thing is that every time that you fail and learn, you feel better about yourself. You feel
Mm.
smarter. You
Yeah.
feel more powerful, and you just have to keep on keeping on, knowing that every single person who's successful was a failure over and over again until they suddenly succeeded. And so the most important quality for success is persistence. Is
Mm,
people persist. They never consider the possibility of failure. They don't have failures, they have learning experiences. And so whenever they sit around and sit down and say, what happened? Well, what was our learning experience? What did we learn? What are we going to do differently? There's two questions which I teach all the time, and then in every context. Question number one is, what did I do right in
mm,
this situation? Because no matter how many mistakes you made, you did something right. And question number two is, what would I do differently next time?
mm,
And when you ask those questions, the answers are both positive. And since they're positive, they make you smart. They give you energy. They activate your creativity. And you'll find that every great success is built on a stack of failures. So just learn from it. And with my company, with my different companies, I've had 22 different companies. With my staff, I just say, all right, they come in and they say, we made a mistake, and all mistakes cost money, and we made a mistake. We say, okay, what did you learn? And what are you going to do differently next time? So nobody feels guilty or frustrated or unhappy, and nobody's ever criticized for making a mistake. The only question is, what are you going to do differently next time? And so that's the starting point of becoming successful, is be absolutely clear that you want to be successful. So what I tell people is, make a decision to become a millionaire over the course of your working lifetime.
mhm.
Remember, there's 39 million millionaires as of like last week, and there's more and more. And it's easier because of inflation. It's easier to become financially successful today than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But just say, all right, I'm going to become a millionaire. And how do you become a millionaire? And the answer is, you become better and better helping other people to achieve their most important goals. And then you earn more and more for the amount of effort that you put in. And then at a certain point, and they found this, I had a good friend who was a very top accountant. He said that most people became millionaires unexpectedly. They, their accountant one year said, you're worth more than $1 million today. I said, what? I had no, they were so busy working that they had no idea that they were so successful. And that's the same thing with you. And so there are really no limits except the limits you place on your own imagination. One of the things that I tell my kids, I tell my friends, is you become what you think about most of the time, but you also become what you say to yourself most of the time. And the most powerful thing that you can say is, I can do it. I can do it.
Mm.
I can do anything I put my mind to. Sure, you'll have lots of temporary setbacks and difficulties and obstacles, but if you just keep on keeping on, you'll become a great success. So that's where I would start. And that's the difference between people who are successful and people who aren't.
And, I was listening to one of your talks, and there was one thing that stood out to me that I liked this definition that you provided. You provided this definition of happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy goal or ideal. And so I found that kind of interesting because it defined happiness not as this outcome that we might achieve by getting the goal, right? You were saying, like, okay, we have the 2 years and we have another 2 years and like eventually like year seven, right? And so it's not like what I'm hearing is it's not at year seven that I have the happiness. It sounds like it's rooted in, there's a worthy goal and I see myself having this perseverance towards it. It made me curious is like the realization of a worthy goal or ideal. So how do we actually discern, what is a worthy goal? That sounded like what you were talking about, getting the clarity. So how do we find what's a worthy goal, for ourselves in the first place, one that is authentic to us and not just something we're like taking on from outside ourselves, seeing in society and seeing, oh, that makes other people happy. I should do that.
No. Well, it's interesting. one of the exercises I put people through is I ask them, what is your most important value in
Mm,
life? And you can always tell what your value is because it's what you do under pressure. It's what you care about. It really actually activates you emotionally. And for me, my value is freedom. Freedom. I love the concept of freedom, and I do everything possible to make it so that my wife, my children, my grandchildren have freedom. They're free to do and be and have whatever they want. And so you say freedom, and the most important thing about freedom is financial freedom is other than that, you worry about money all the time. Money is a very emotional thing. And if you have money problems, you think about money. You go to sleep at night thinking about money. You toss and turn. You get up in the morning. You talk about money with the people at home. It's just so. Therefore, one of your goals in life is to become financially free, to have enough money, and this is the key, to have enough money so that you never worry about money again.
mhm,
If once you stop worrying about money, your whole life opens up like a summer sunrise, we used to say, is your whole life is wonderful because you have enough money that you don't worry about it. So then the question you ask is, how much do you need to not worry about money? What is your goal? And one of the things that is so simple, it's almost embarrassing, is that write it down. Write it down. And if you've read my materials and that, just if it's not in writing, it's not a goal. It's like cigarette smoke in a big room. It just kind of dissipates. So, but when you put it in writing, and then you think, all right, what are the different things I can do? For example, here's an exercise that will change your life, that will make you financially independent, make you free, and make you rich. And it's very simple. You say, what is my biggest financial goal in life? You say, okay, I want to be a millionaire in the course of my working lifetime. It gives you lots of flexibility. Then you say, okay, and then you take a new clean sheet of paper, and a clean sheet of paper like this is a life changer. This yellow pad. It's interesting. They interviewed the presidents of 50 fast-growing small and medium-sized companies, and they asked them, "What is your most important tool for planning and operating your business?" 49 said a yellow pad. Every morning they get up and they write out and plan and organize their life. So here's a very simple exercise that will transform your life if you have the discipline to do it. And that's another question, is write down 20 ways that you can achieve your goal. So my goal is to be financially independent. Financially independent for me means this amount. And then write down 20 ways. How can I become financially independent? And keep writing till you have at least 20 answers. And then go back over the list and say, which one of these answers, if I were to implement it immediately, would have the greatest positive effect? Put a circle around it and then go to work on that one thing. Now, that sounds like pretty simple stuff, but only about 3% of people, according to studies at Harvard, only 3% of people have written goals and plans to achieve them. Only 3%. And those people earn, on average, 10 times as much as other people who come from the same background, graduates of Harvard or the major universities. They have all the wonderful backgrounds, but they don't write it down. They don't make a plan. Harvard did a study, and they asked people, "How many of you have written goals and have made plans to accomplish them when you leave the university?" They found that 3% had written goals and plans. About 14% had goals, but they weren't written in writing. There were more hopes and prayers and illusions and so on. And more than 80% had no goals or plans at all, except to have a good time. And they associated with people whose goal was to have a good time as well. uh, psychological terms, is you become what you think about, but you also become like the people around you. And if you associate with people who have no goals, you will have no goals. In fact, you will gravitate toward them. You'll find people with goals are not as interesting as your friends who think about socializing and going out and going in and so on. So there's a rule that says your income, your net worth will be the average of the five people with whom you associate most of the time. So who do you associate with most of the time? Successful people spend a lot of time with other successful people. They have lunch with them, they have coffee with them, they talk with them, they share ideas. Here's a life changer. When you meet a person who you like, who's obviously doing well, positive person, say, what one book would you recommend that I read based on your own experience? What one book? And it's quite amazing. People always have one book. They'll always give you a read this book. And sometimes within a two or 300 page book, there's one idea that will make you rich. It'll change your life. It'll solve one of your biggest problems. It's an eye opener. I call it a face slapper. It's just go whack. You go, wow, I hadn't thought about that. For example, writing your goals down. There's an exercise that I teach people. I say, write down um, your top 10 goals in life. Just write them down in the present tense as though they were already a reality. So you say, I earn X number of dollars by this period of time. I weigh X number of pounds by this time. I achieve this goal. I do this thing. And write it down in the present tense. You see, your subconscious mind can only focus on a goal that is articulated in the present tense. And do that every day for a month, and your whole life will transform. It's I learned it this maybe 40 years ago, is write down your 10 most important goals. And I've taught it to 2 or 3 million people. And they come back and they say, they cannot believe it. They can't believe the impact on their life of such a simple idea to write down your top 10 goals. So what I do is I have people, I'll show you what I use. I use a one that I bought from Amazon. I bought them. It's a spiral notebook, and uh, I used to do a coaching program for entrepreneurs. And on the first day, I would guarantee that in the next 12 months, it's 4 full days with me every one day every 3 months. And in the next 4 months, the next 4 meetings, 1 year, I guarantee you will double your income and double your time off. You will double your income and double your time off. And if you don't, they'll give you 100% of your money back after a year. And they would say, okay. And then I would say, now I want to introduce you to your new best friend. And then I would hand out spiral notebooks, like school notebooks. And I would say, open them up and write today's date, and then write down 10 goals that you'd like to accomplish in the next 12 months or so. And then once you've done that, look at the 10 goals and say, if you could wave a magic wand and achieve any one of these goals in the next 12 months, which one goal would have the greatest positive impact on your life? And in most cases, it's financial. If you could achieve a financial goal, it would solve almost all your other problems. So put a circle around that. That's your main goal. And then turn the page over and write down goal setting exercise and write down 20 ways or 20 things you could do to achieve your most important goal. And then take action. Just get busy. Do one thing. And then every day, start off every day, rewrite your 10 goals and do something. Rewrite your 10 goals and then do something. Only 3% of people do this. And these people own everything achieve everything, become millionaires and billionaires and everything else. And you say, well, I don't understand how it works. Don't worry. Don't, it's like gravity. You don't have to worry about it. It just works. And not try to defy us. Because if you don't write down your goals, what will happen? We say if you're not achieving your own goals, you'll be achieving somebody else's goals. You'll be
Mhm.
working to achieve their goals. So that's really, really important. Write it down, write it down, write it down. And people would come back to the second meeting, first meeting, 3 months later, they come back, and it didn't take them a year
Right.
to double their income. Within a month, sometimes within a week, they already achieved their most important goal. They were absolutely astonished. There's a an exercise I teach. It's called the magic wand exercise. And the magic wand exercise says, imagine you could wave a magic wand and you could achieve any one goal in life. Which one goal would have the greatest positive impact on your life? Which one goal? And that really requires some thought. Then you ask yourself, what one skill, if you were absolutely excellent at it, would help you the most to achieve your most important goal? And you think, well, you always know exactly what it is. It jumps into the front of your mind. And then I explain that every person who has a skill today at one time did not have it. Every person who can do something really well at one time was poor at it. We say every a master was once a disaster, and yeah, and so then you think, okay, if I was really good at this, for example, when I started off in selling after working at laboring jobs, is I would make as many as 70 calls a day. I kept track, just one, two, three, four, five, one, two, three. And I'd start off at 8 o'clock in the morning and I'd work until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And I didn't make any sales, but I kept making calls all day long. And then one day I asked, what one skill would help me the most? And the answer was closing the sale or asking the customer to buy. So I began to study sales closing techniques. And the better I got at closing techniques, the more confident I was in calling on people. And I got better and better at closing. My income went up once, twice, 5 times, 10 times in the next 2 or 3 years. My income was just, I could not believe it. And I began to teach other people, other salespeople, here's how you ask people to buy. And the more confident you are in asking people to buy, the more confident you are calling on more people. And so you get into an upward spiral. And it's
Right.
the most wonderful thing. So remember, anybody who is good at anything was once poor at it. And if you're not particularly good at a key skill, it's learnable. All skills are learnable. There's nothing that can stop you except, I sometimes say to my audience, there's nothing that can stop you from doubling and tripling your income. Nothing can stop you. I said, oh, wait a minute, I'm wrong. There is one thing. And you see, Alexis, you reacted. Is they all? I say, what is that one thing? And everybody goes, it's me. And so if you decide that you're going to master a skill, there's nothing that can stop you from mastering the skill. It's just a matter of hard work. Is it easy? No, it's hard. Success is hard. It requires that you work really, really hard for a long time. But if you just keep at it, eventually you become excellent. And once you become excellent at something, you become more and more aggressive about practicing your skill
Right.
and calling on more people and making more presentations and so on. So I went from rags, I say from rags to non-rags, and I would start to make more money. People say, well, what are you doing differently from me? And I say, well, there's this and that and so on. So I put together my first course to teach salespeople in my company. And then I put together a second course. And then I put together courses on the entire sales process. I came up with this idea of what I call the psychology of selling, which
Mm.
is which is low pressure, no pressure way of identifying, finding new prospects. And there's a 7-part process of selling. And once you have this 7-part, I was I was talking to a client of mine who pays me $50,000 a year for advice, and I said, you know, that more people have become millionaires using my material, my psychology of selling, than any other single influence. He said, well, that would describe me. He said, when I came across your material, I had no idea. I was struggling. Didn't have enough money. I was driving an old car. I was living at home in the basement of my parents' house and so on. He said, and then I began to practice the psychology of selling, the step by step, like a recipe. And my income went up 5 and 10 times. He said, I've never earned so much money. I became a millionaire within 3 years of beginning to use a professional sales process. And the good news is that that's available to anybody. It's on Audible, it's on the bookstores. You could sit right where you are and pull down everything that you need to know to increase your income 5 or 10 times. And I meet people all over the world who could tell me that story. You changed my life. You made me rich. I couldn't believe how simple it was. No pressure, no tricks, no anything. Just helping people to make good buying decisions and then standing behind your product or service. Anyway, so those are the things that I have taught people. And the more you practice your selling or whatever skill it is, the better you get at it. And the better you get at it, the more results you get sooner and in less time. And then you get better and you get even more results and better
Right.
results faster. So everybody, I put more than 1,000 business owners, entrepreneurs through my 1 year coaching program, one full day every 3 months, and I offer them 100% return. They didn't double their income and double their money back. And in 7 years, more than 1,000 clients, not one person ever asked for the money back. And the critical thing was the spiral notebook. I knew that if I handed out the spiral notebook and taught people how to go through this notebook and write out their goals and so on, that it would transform their lives. And it always did. It always did. And I've taught it now in 64 countries and in 55 languages. And it works.
It's a really amazing thing. I mean, when I think back on my own experience, I've been an entrepreneur in my life, and I did work with a coach when that's at not the beginning of the journey, but a couple years into it when I was wanting to, as we've been talking about, kind of get clear on where I wanted to go and what kind of work I wanted to do, and a skill set that I had that I wanted to figure out, how can I do this for myself? How can I go into business for myself with this skill set? And so it really is pretty profound because on my own, I just could not. It's like I just didn't know where to start. I couldn't figure out what to focus on. And that was such a difficult place to be in. I feel like when I was in school, I understood what to focus on because, in school they tell you what to focus on. And so I was like, great, if you tell me what to focus on, then I can do it. But when I have to figure out what it is to focus on, I'm like, I don't know where to look. And then, so anyway, this process of just starting to break down in writing, this is what I want to do. And then, the reason I even bring this up is because in some cases, there'd be some things I'd write down that I'd end up figuring out, okay, this was actually not that important after all. And I can scratch it off. And then in other cases, well, again, to get to the point of why I'm bringing it up, I found that over time, it's a useful skill set to have. It's something I feel like I can go back to. And it's not every single week that I have the things like written down as I would like to. It's not every single week, and that's okay because I find, oh, this is something I can still come back to. And when I know that I'm ready and willing, I can come back to this, and I know how it's gonna help my focus and it's going to help my direction. And so even that process in itself is helpful because it makes me feel less like everything is just kind of random and like, what's, and this sense of getting pulled in a bunch of different directions. A little more agency, perhaps.
Yes, it's interesting. It requires systems. They say that success systems, are designed by geniuses to be followed by morons. And a success system requires the most important quality of all, which is self-discipline. Is you have to have self-control. You have to actually practice it on a regular basis, whether it's sports or physical fitness or learning or upgrading your skills. So I remember when I was in my early 30s, I had been dreaming of being a millionaire all my life. From the time I was 15, I had fantasies of being financially successful. And here I was in my 30s, and I was still I was ahead. We say just ahead of broke. Just over broke is what we call it. A job is just over broke. And so I was walking down the street and I realized I wanted to be a millionaire, but I had never decided to become a.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've found over the years is that nothing happens until you make a decision to do it and then follow through on your decision and then just keep on keeping on. Well, so I sat down and I said, well, how would I become a millionaire? Well, I'd have to increase my income and then, of course, hold on to it. So I worked out a 7-part system, and it was based on Einstein's description of the law of compounding. And he said the law of compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. Is that compounding means compounding and growing on everything you've accomplished up to now. So, for example, that all great fortunes have been built on compounding. You start off and you earn a certain amount, and then you earn more, and you earn more, and you earn more. So I came up with this. I said, what would I have to do to increase my income, to double my income? And often I'll start a whole seminar. I'll say, how many people here would like to double their income in the next year or so? And everybody in the audience, 1,000, 2,000 people, raise their hand. I said, okay, I'm going to show you how to do it. And it's very simple. And but we'll come to it a little bit later. And they all say, no, we want to know it now. What's the key to doubling your income? I say, well, if I'm speaking to a sales audience, and I've spoken to 2 or 3 million salespeople over the years, I'll say, well, according to the studies, the average salesperson makes 2 new calls per day. 2 per day on average. Some are above, some are below. The average is 2. So let us say that you are amongst the average and you want to double your income. Well, then what you do is you make 4 calls a day. That's it. Go home now. Seminar's over. Everybody laughs and so on. I said, because if you are making 2 calls a day, then if you make 4, because of the laws of probabilities and so on, you'll double your income. And people say, that's ridiculous. You can't do that. I've been in my business for years, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, why don't you give it a try? And I said, but keep accurate notes in writing. Write down every day how many people you speak to and what you spoke to them about and what happened. So if you checked in today, you may find you're not even making one call a day. Some people I've found are only making one call a week. It's just, but they didn't even know. They thought they were so busy and so on. So I say, all right, just aim for two, and then three, and then four. And you know something? Every single person who develops a discipline to make four new calls a day doubles their income, sometimes in as little as a week. They are just shocked. They can hardly believe it. I mean, I've been working for 9, 10 years, yes, but you haven't been tracking your calls. All successful people write it down, write it down,
Mhm.
write it down.
Mhm.
Anyway, so I said, so it's a very simple way to double your income. But if you want to increase your income, if you want to double it again, you have to use compounding. And so I set a goal to increase my income by 10 times. And I began to teach this to large audiences, hundreds of people. And I had a man come up to me. His name was Chris, and he said, uh, some years after I began to teach this, he said, you know, your system to increase your income 10 times, he said, doesn't work. I've been trying it nonstop for 6 years. It doesn't work. It doesn't take 10 years. It only takes six. He said, I'm now earning 10 times what I was earning when I started. So I taught, here's the system. Anybody who's listening, if you want to increase your income by 10 times using the miracle of compound, it's very simple. Start off by saying, well, I'm going to increase my productivity, my performance, and my output by 25% per year. 25% per year is 2% per month. 2% per month is one half of 1% or less per week. Is that possible? Is it possible for you to become more productive? Start a little earlier, work a little harder, stay a little later, upgrade your skills, and so on. And everybody says, sure. I said, okay, if you'll do that, then here's what will happen. After 1 year times 25%, after 2 years and 7 months, you'll double your income. And then if you keep doing that and upgrading your skills 2% per month, 25% per year, you'll increase your income by 10 times in 10 years. Does it work? Yes. And everybody who tries it makes it work. So what are the seven keys? I always prefer sevens. Seven keys are very simple. Number one, get up early. All successful people, millionaires, billionaires, rich people, wealthy people, doctors, lawyers, architects, engineers, successful people get up before 6 a.m. It's just a sort of a by the by. Successful people get up early. Unsuccessful people get up at the last possible moment. And then they watch a little TV at home before they go and they drink some coffee and read the newspaper and so no, that's not for you. You get up before 6 and you get going. So number one, get up early. Number two is read 1 hour each day in your field. 1 hour each day in your field. That will turn into about one book per week. One book per week will be 50 books a year. 50 books a year is 500 books in the next 10 years. If you were just to read one book per week that upgraded your skills and knowledge on a regular basis, that alone will increase your income 10 times. It's just astonishing how much you can do with personal development. So, number one, get up early. Number two, read 1 hour per day. Number three, plan every day in advance. Use a yellow pad, write it down, organize the day, write down everything that you have to do that day, then go over it and say, if you could only do one thing on this list, which one thing would it be? And put a circle around it. Number four is set priorities and concentrate on the most valuable use of your time. That's the fourth part of the seven-part system. Number five is listen to audio programs in your car. I started off many years ago listening to audio programs when cassettes just came out. Now there's cassettes, then there's CDs, and now there's Audible. And the most successful people listen to educational audio programs when they drive around. It's simple as pie. You can get the best education in the world on your iPhone and just listen to it as you travel around. And so that's number five. Number six is ask two questions after every event, every activity in the daytime. Number one is, what did I do right? What did I do right? After every call, do an immediate assessment and review it. There's no point in doing something and then not learning from it. So what you need to do is stop, like a timeout, and think, what did I do right? Because no matter what happened, you did something right. Number two, what would I do differently next time? What would I do differently next time? And write it down, write it down, write it down. And finally, number seven is treat every person you meet like $1 million customer. Treat every person as if they have the ability to buy $1 million worth of your product or service. And this attitude, starting at home with the most important people in your life, but always treat people really well. And the combination of these seven will cause you to increase your productivity, performance, and output by 2% per month, 25% per year. And by compounding, you'll increase your income by 1,007% in 10 years. And I started doing this. It seemed very simple, but it requires tremendous self-control and self-discipline. And it worked. It was the most amazing damn thing. Within 6 years, I had doubled, I increased my income 10 times and then 10 times more. And I could just literally couldn't believe it. I was never dreamed I would earn that kind of money. And I taught other people, and every person who did it just earn more money than they ever thought possible. The thing is, it's compounding, is working at it over and over again. Very small incremental improvements, is getting better and better. Read, listen, practice, learn, and so on. And people from all over the world have written to me and said the same thing. You changed my life. You made me rich. This formula for increasing your income 10 times is absolutely amazing because everybody is a skeptic. They're all saying, well, that's not possible. And you couldn't do that. And I've been working for years and never did it. And I say, well, as I said before, why don't you give it a try? And so everybody who's listening to this today, if they will do what we just talked about, the 7 steps, it will trigger compounding. Compounding is a power of the universe. It'll make you rich. It'll make you happy. It'll give you a tremendous sense of control. It will transform your life. And but if you don't do these things, nothing will happen. You'll stay at the same level. So just become 25% more productive each year. You'll, you'll increase your income by 10 times in 10 years. But actually, usually it's by 6 years. The average person increases their income 10 times in 6 years, and then they do it again. So does it work? Yes. People people are skeptical, but you don't have to be skeptical. Just try it. Just try it out. See what happens. It's like a recipe. If you just try out the recipe and see if you like the dish. And if you do, then do it again. Now, if you cook with a new recipe and you use the recipe over and over, what happens to your ability to cook with that recipe? It becomes easier and easier, faster and faster, more and more predictable, and all the bugs come out of the system. Just like each person has a chosen dish in the kitchen that they can go and they can whip it up. And it may be an omelet, and it may be for me, it's a Caesar salad. It may be something else. But what happens is you practice it, soon you get better and better, easier and easier, and earn more and more. And surprise, surprise, within 7 to 10 years, you'll have a net worth of more than $1 million. And people are just say, well, it can't be that easy. It's not easy. It's very hard. And only 3% of people will do it. The others always have an excuse or a reason. I was talking to a friend of mine recently who was struggling and struggling and broke, and he heard about my psychology of selling program, and he began to practice it. He said within 3 years, he was earning $3 million a year. He said he had no idea how powerful a system was. And he went to a seminar that was given by another business speaker, and he didn't have the money to attend. So he snuck in the back of the room. And the speaker said, I'm going to give you a couple of ideas, but only about 3% of people in this room will do them. They'll all nod and smile and everything else, but they won't do them. But if you do them, it'll transform your life. So he said, all right. And he decided he was going to be one of the 3% of people that did it. He wrote it down and he practiced it. He said, and it changed his life. He said, the answers have all been discovered. The answers have all been discovered. If you're frustrated because you're not achieving the goals that you want to achieve, remember the answers have all been found. All you have to do is find them and practice them over and over again until they become automatic and easy. Anyway, you don't get me going because I know that all of these answers work. And I won't talk about my own experience, but I was broke until I was mid-30, and now I'm not.
And it's, I mean, very helpful to have it come down to a spiral notebook and a piece of paper, nothing too fancy. It's one of those things when it's like, oh, it's so simple. It can't be that. But, it's very practical, and it's, I hope, something that people listening can find approachable and maybe get excited, because I always find getting a notebook a very exciting, exciting thing myself. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, from this conversation, I just really heard you start off talking about clarity and focus. And in this conversation, I heard a lot about how to become really clear, as getting started, how to be clear, and then also how to keep track as you go. And so continuing to have the clarity on, okay, this is what happened, this is what I'm learning, and just staying with that. And it is simple, but I think that when we hear something that is maybe a little conceptual, like be clear, it's very helpful to have the behaviors that we can turn to match with how to develop that. So thank you so much, Brian, for coming and sharing your wisdom. And I just sense your excitement and passion about this whole topic, and it just definitely comes through. So thank you so much for sharing your passion about this with us. And I can feel like the belief that you have that, like, hey, we can do this. And I hope that invites folks into, a sense of that for themselves too. And so as we're approaching the end of our time together today, is there anything that you want to leave folks with that can help them inspire themselves towards action, or just anything on your heart you like to leave them with?
Well, the key is to get up every morning and get going, get started, do something, do anything, write it down, write it down. I just wrote a book a few years ago called Goals, exclamation point. And I've written the book 3 times now, and I've just recorded the latest version, which is the state of the art. It's the best book on goals in the world. It sold 1 million copies in 39 languages. And if you were to ask me one thing that would help you more than anything else, is get the book on goals. It's a couple of dollars, and then practice it. Just walk through it step by step. And my promise is it's life transforming. I was at a conference not long ago, and they brought in people from all over the world, and they wanted to interview me. They wanted to take pictures. They paid thousands of dollars. And I asked them, I said, what was it about my material that was the most helpful? And they all said, one after another, it was the goals. It was the goals. I really had no idea how important the goals were, how important it is to work from written goals. You see, when you write down a goal, you program it into your subconscious and into what is called your superconscious mind. And your superconscious mind then works on the goal 24 hours a day. It brings you ideas. It's the seat of the law of attraction. It attracts into your life people and circumstances. It's the most amazing darn thing. But you have to have goals that are written in the present tense. And if you just do it, I mean, I say try it for a month. Try it for a month and see what happens. And the test is, do you have the discipline to try it for a month, to try it every day for 30 days? If you do, after 30 days, you'll have developed a habit. And the habit will make it automatic. You'll get up in the morning, you'll apply the habit of goal writing. When you write down your goals, you will attract more and more of your goals into your life. It's the most amazing thing. So I always say, just give it a try. Most people are skeptical, but remember, you're not being skeptical of me because I know it works. I know because I have the proof. You're being skeptical of yourself. What you're doing is you're saying, "Well, I don't think it will work for me." Well, yes, it will. Of course, it will. Just like an exercise program will work, a diet program will work. Anything that you do repeatedly over and over again will work. And what you have to do is get it to the point where it's automatic and easy, and you can make more progress in the next 1 or 2 years than you may have made in the last 10 or 20. That certainly was the case with me some years ago, and it's been the case of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, my students all over the world. And it'll be the same thing with you. No limits.
That's beautiful. I hope that there's a person or 10 or 20 listening that happened to run into you on the street and can tell you one of the testimonies that you've heard from the other folks who have approached you and said, "Hey, this changed my life." I'm prophesizing that over the folks listening here. So thank you so much again for joining us today, Brian. And how can people find out more about you and your work?
Just go to briantracy.com. There's all kinds of things that we offer for free. For example, 64% of adults dream of writing a book about them, their lives and their past, and so on and so forth. And then they don't do it because they don't know how. So we have a complete program on how to write a book and get published. But there's a 20-part description of what you need to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Just go to the website and it's free, no charge. It's under, I think it's called under free resources or something like that. And then there's another one. It's a goal setting program. It's a 14-step goal setting program, and that's also no charge. So go to briantracy.com and go to free resources and to download the list of steps that you need to follow in order to achieve any goal that you want to set for yourself. And so many people have written to us and told us it was life transforming, and it's free. So it's the most amazing darn thing. It's free, and yet you have to beat people about the head and shoulders to get them to take a free program that is life changing. So
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Brian, for joining us. It has been lovely speaking with you today, and we really appreciate you being here.
thank you, Alexis. You have a great day.